Okay, hi guys. I'm back with another video, and this time it is on cytopathology. Now, we are soon going to be finishing with the cytopathology series, and I'll be starting with histopathology. I just have two more lectures of cytopathology left, and what I if I from next month, basically half of next month will go into cytopathology, and then of course we'll start with histopath and alternate it with hematopath. Secondly, thank you so much for making us a 1000 plus family. I not expected it, and I'm getting so much love and support from you, and I hope that I can do justice to that. The topic that I'm going to be taking today is not of much interest, maybe to most of you, because you in routine or in your exams, not I shouldn't say in routine practice, you do get slides in routine practice, but in exams you might not get too much you might not give too much emphasis on the FNAC of these lesions, of these tumors or benign lesions that I'm going to be teaching you or discussing with you. However, it is important to know that what an FNAC of these specific organs might look like. What are in intra-abdominal organs, you know that mostly that the important ones that I'm going to be discussing today are pancreas. I'll show you kidney, adrenals, and lymph node. Liver I've taken, and spleen I've taken a separate lecture before. Mediastinum I've covered. Also, you need to know the fact that lymph nodes are basically lymphomas or metastasis. So the picture is almost the same whether it is in the mediastinum or mediastinal FNAC, or if it is a abdominal lymph node FNAC. But I'll still show you a few images. What you need to understand in these four organs that I'm going to be discussing is that sometimes you might not be in a position to perform a biopsy. Supposing the patient is having a pancreatic lesion, like I recently encountered a case, and you are not in a position to perform a biopsy, or the tumor is inapproachable for to the scope, to the biopsy forceps when you are performing the ERCP. If the tumor is say in a position where you can go through the percutaneous route, you might attempt a guided biopsy, okay, or a guided FNAC, and there this helps you. However, rarely would you get that thing. Mostly you will get biopsy tissue for that. Adrenals, normally what we get are the biopsies rather than the FNACs again, and same is true for the renal tumors. However, sometimes keeping patient's general condition in mind, if it's a very old age patient, you might go for a FNAC only. Intra-abdominal lymph nodes, on the other hand, most commonly encountered procedure is the FNAC rather than going for a full biopsy. Reason, if it is mostly lymphomas or tuberculosis and it is generalized. So there is no point of taking the a piece of the lymph node if the diagnosis can be made on FNAC. Another important use of FNAC is the flow cytometry, which you can perform on the sample aspirated while doing an FNAC, especially in the lymph node. If a good yield is obtained from the pancreas or the kidneys or the adrenals when you're performing an FNAC, you can even try doing an immunocytochemistry. So today what I discuss with you is a more clinical, rather than it being of any extreme importance in the exams. The topic is important in the exam. Histopathology of that is important. However, FNAC slides you will encounter, but it's not like it will form a major chunk of the examination tissue. So moving on. So if I talk about pancreas, what you need to know is what is the normal structure, and then what are the various diseases, and what are the other abdominal masses that you can come across when you are looking in the into the FNAC of abdominal mass. So mainly I have dealt with this pancreas. So here you see, whenever I have this holds true for gallbladder, for liver, for all the abdominal organs which have either ducts or are secretory or gland or produce something, some sort of a hormone or secretion. These monolayered honeycomb structures with a normal NC ratio, not much anisocytosis, are categorical of it being a normal ductal epithelium or a normal epithelial structure. You might also get these kind of structures with a lot of mucin. This could be and these very well organized polarized nuclei. This could be malignant. This could also be some sort of a metaplastic change. Or remember, it is very tough to exactly pinpoint the lesion. That is why I told you it's not of much importance in pancreas, etc., until and unless you get clear cut features of malignancy. Okay. Sometimes you might get this kind of necrotic, these stromal elements which might be of any benign lesion of the pancreas where the stromal proliferation is too much. Or you might get, if there's this infected cyst of the pancreas, you might get this infected pigment cells, and with if there's hemorrhage in that, and these infected cells in the background. Okay. Basically, what you'll encounter is the pancreatic pseudocyst, and the serous and the mucinous neoplasms, and the intrapapillary mucinous neoplasm in pseudopapillary. So always remember that if it is a cystic structure, you will get cyst macrophages, and you might get inflammation and those pigment-like macrophages I had shown you. If it is a serous structure, there will be overlapping, and there will be a large number of sheets. That is nice honeycomb pattern will not be there, and this kind of something like this, you'll get a lot of sheets like this. Okay. And in the mucinous, I had shown you that this kind of epithelium abhi before. Okay, something like this you will get. This is actually the histopathology, but you will get it with a mucinous background. You will get atypical cells with I don't think it's there in the image. You are going to get atypical cells with mucin droplets in it. So that is how you recognize that it is something mucinous or it is something serous. So to recognize a normal from an abnormal proliferation is the number of florid proliferation of sheet-like epithelial cells, and you have to look for is a background of mucin or mucin droplets. Okay. Then other important points is, see, I told you in pseudocyst you get pigmented histiocytes, and of course you will get inflammation if it is infected. In serous you will get a sheet, monolayered sheet, which can be pass positive. Of course, in both IPMN and mucinous you will get mucin. Another way to differentiate is this: you will get a lot of papillary fronds if it is a IPMN, because it is a papillary structure. Okay, you can also look for these vascular cores and cells around them, because it is a true papillary. Fine, and as you move from benign to malignant, you're going to see that there will be a lot of anisocytosis, there will be a lot of overlapping of the sheets, same thing over here. This could be a little mucinous because of the droplets over here. Now and see this could be IPMN with such a nice papillary finger-like fronds and projections. Now what I want to tell you is that in pancreatic cytology, Cohen etc. have formulated three criteria through which you can decide whether the proliferation is benign or malignant, and all of them are mainly nuclear. You have to look for nuclear membrane irregularity, you have to look for high NC ratio, and you have to look for I'm forgetting the third criteria. I'm sorry, it is nuclear membrane irregularity and high NC ratio and nuclear pleomorphism. And the pleomorphism would be up to 4:1. Fine. And the anisonucleosis that you get, the size can be up to, like, you put two RBCs together larger than that. So here you can see, I'll show you. This is such a large nucleus over here. And then this is such a normal looking small nucleus. So this is almost 4:1 ratio. Again over here you're going to see the same thing. Fine. Over here also you are going to see anisonucleosis. See, these are smaller, this is larger, but what is more characteristic is these cytoplasmic vacuoles. So basically what you can only delineate on FNAC of pancreas is whether it is a benign or a malignant lesion. Okay, moving on, if you get a GIST or something like that, a gastrointestinal stromal tumor, see, you might get these kind of spindle cells in the FNAC. I have moved on from pancreas. Okay, now coming to the kidneys and the adrenals, again the same thing. So normally, FNAC, again I said you will not encounter it too much, but if it is remember, if it is a DCT that you have encountered, or when you are doing distal convoluted tubule, the cells will be more basophilic and tightly packed. If it is a PCT, the cells will be more granular with a foamy, frothy kind of a cytoplasm, okay, because of the granules present. Another thing that you need to keep in mind with kidneys is that, or even adrenals, is that if it is oncocytic or adrenal structure that you've encountered, the cytoplasm will always be granular and ample. And if it is a simple epithelial tumor, it will be more dense and well organized rather than just foamy and an isonucleosis. This you will get both in adrenals as well as in any oncocytic tumor of the kidney. As the pleomorphism increases, the anisonucleus increases, you can do a PAP, etc. Then you can compare that, it will become a histopathology, and it will come out to be a tumor. Very high anaplastic tumors have this kind of a picture. Okay, a lot of anisonucleosis and a lot of high NC ratio. But if it is a papillary tumor, sometimes you might get Samoma body, which is not there in the picture, but sometimes you might get calcifications, which are known as Samoma bodies. Okay, then if it is again a granular oncocytic tumor, Wadens, you can get, sorry, not Wadens, but a oncocytic tumor, Wadens in salivary gland, then you'll get this kind of granular amphiphilic cytoplasm. Fine. Now, to differentiate it from okay, another tumor is angiomyolipoma, where you will get this fat vacuolation with a lot of foamy cells with anisonucleosis. And so these fat droplets are very common in angiomyolipoma kidney. Then coming to small round blue cell tumors in kidney, you know it is Wilms tumor that you can confuse with is lymphoma, again small round blue cells. This probably could be a small round blue cell tumor. Again, location very difficult to give. So you have to correlate it with radiology, correlate it with IHC, and then come to a diagnosis, because adrenal tumors might go up into the kidney, and sometimes kidney tumors might be extending into the adrenals. So this is the last slide actually. So I told you this topic is not of much relevance from the point of view of cytology, except that in these organs you can tell it is benign, malignant, or it is embryonal, or like a Wilms or not. Mainly what you have to do is a histopath and radiological correlation. However, since this is a part of cytopathology, so I have covered it for you. But if you have some more information which you would like to share, you can message me on Messenger, and I'm going to share it with your name. I'll give you credit for this, and anything extra you know about. Of course, there's a lot given in the book. I've not covered that because you have to read the text. I'm just discussing some very important key points where you can catch. Like if I summarize, I can just tell you that if it is you know that the lesion is pancreatic, just look for anisonucleosis and nucleopleomorphism. That's it. And if you know it is kidney, look for whether it is a granular cytoplasm or a simple bland cytoplasm. Then if you know it's adrenal, you have to look for the same thing. Even in adrenals, if you think it is a ganglioneuromax, it's something like that with a lot of neural component, do an S100. Go and look for neural component. You can see those wisps in the background. If it's a Wilms tumor, then you have to look for small round blue cells. It can be a neuroblastoma. Then again, the final diagnosis can only be on molecular and IHC. So this could be an anaplastic Wilms over here. I'm not showing you this image. This thing. Okay. So so this is in short that I want to discuss about this topic. Next time I'll be taking hematpath, and the last topic of cytopathology will be very important. It will be fluid cytology, which will be very important for you in exams as well as in regular practice. You will get one slide of fluid cytology where you will be asked whether it is a benign or a malignant lesion, and it'll have a lot of mesothelial cells in it. So that, please don't miss that lecture. That will be important. This was just to cover the topic and finish the chapter of the topic of cytopathology. So I'll see you next time. Till then, I hope you like this. Thank you.